FBI Director Kash Patel is testifying on Capitol Hill. He is facing tough questions from a Senate Judiciary Committee on his oversight of the agency. Topics of note include the handling of the Epstein case, the investigation into Charlie Kirk's murder, and recent firings at the FBI.
For budgetary purposes and
to fire people, agents, because they participated in investigations of the president.
I don't receive directions to do that.
Has anyone
I make the
suggested
decisions.
Has anyone asked you to do it? The best information is, yes, you've taken suggestions and direction from the White House in firing qualified agents.
Any termination at the FBI was a decision that I made based on the evidence that I have as a director of the FBI, and it's my job, and I'm not going to shy away from it. And as you stated, those are allegations, and that is an ongoing litigation. So they'll have their day in court, so will we.
The allegations are not just in that lawsuit, Director Patel, and I think your testimony confirms that, in fact, you've taken direction from the White House.
I don't.
In those retaliatory firings.
It literally does not.
Because you've acknowledged that, in fact, they have been in contact with you about personnel decisions.
The White House has been, do not put words in my mouth, we're on the record. The White House, like any administration, contacts its agencies on the budgeting process and where it needs personnel and where the mission priorities are. That always happens. If they didn't do that, they would be abdicating the responsibility to law enforcement.
All right, joining us now is CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. Nikole, good to see you again. What else are you learning so far from Patel's testimony?
Well, there certainly has been a lot of concern, particularly on the part of Democrats, in terms of getting at this issue of what they perceive to be a purge at the FBI of career officials, and particularly those agents who may have worked on cases involving the president or, for instance, with regard to January 6th. So that has been a prominent line of questioning. But also, we did hear from the director more specifically on the Charlie Kirk investigation. In fact, he opened up his remarks with that, talking about the need for transparency and really walking through the steps of the investigation that ultimately led to the suspect's arrest. Of course, coming into this hearing, the director was facing a little bit of criticism, once again on the part mostly of Democrats, for his handling of that when he tweeted out last week that a suspect was in custody and then walked it back some 90 minutes later. But the chair of the committee, Chuck Grassley, said that he believes that was just an honest mistake. Also, the director providing some more details about the suspect arrest and also the investigation as far as who he may have been in contact with, his communications on Discord, where he allegedly confessed to the crime. So we are learning more about the investigation there. And also, he's been asked about the general tone when it comes to political violence in this country. There was an interesting exchange between the director and Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, who, of course, talked about the incidents in her state, the lawmaker shootings, the shooting at the Annunciation Catholic School, and pressed the director about his stance on whether there should be an assault weapons ban or other efforts taken to try to combat gun violence.
Nikole, something else that requires some major urgency on Capitol Hill right now is funding the government. When could we actually hear some news on Congress's plan when it comes to that?
Yeah, that's right. Well, we could see this text any minute now in terms of what we expect to be a continuing resolution that would fund the government through mid-November. That's kind of been what we've been expecting for some time, but that text should be official momentarily. But look, what Republican leaders are pushing is this clean CR, just keeping the status quo, funding the government as is. We did learn this morning that this continuing resolution is also likely to include about $30 million in additional funding for member security, which we also know has been a big issue of discussion and concern among many members, especially in light of the Charlie Kirk shooting and, of course, the shooting in Minnesota of those lawmakers that I mentioned earlier this year. So that is expected to be attached on. In fact, the speaker told me just yesterday that was one of the holdups for the text not being released to date. But once they do, we expect that the House will likely try to vote on this by Friday, which means the Senate could take it up at some point this weekend.
Okay, Nikole Killion on Capitol Hill for us. Thank you so much. In fact, we know right now Senator Cory Booker inside that room is questioning Kash Patel, so let's listen in.
Chairman, not afraid of you. Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Senator Booker, I announced at the beginning of this meeting that this back and forth, talking over each other, doesn't work. And I said, if that happened, I asked Patel not to respond, and I was going to give him some time after the senator's time was up to respond. And he has the privilege to do that uninterrupted.
Mr. Chairman, one point of
order.
order.
Go ahead, Mr.
I've
Patel.
watched him talk over us, and you've never once criticized him for us not even being able to get our questions out.
Well,
he has been rude and disrespectful to senator after senator.
And when the senators were not giving him a chance to answer, I didn't stop the senator either. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If the FBI, under my 7-month leadership, were failing this administration in this country, why do we have 23,000 violent felons arrested this year alone? A double increase from that time last year. Why is it that we have seized 6,000 weapons? Why have we found 1,500 child predators and arrested them? Why have we 300 human traffickers in jail? Why have we found and identified 4,700 children? Why have we seized 1,600 kilograms of fentanyl, enough to kill a third of the American public, a 25% increase alone from last year? 88,000 kilograms of cocaine seized, 7,000 kilograms of meth seized, and that's just on our criminal operations in summer heat. How is it possible that we are taking 8 kilograms off the streets of the cities in New Jersey and preventing the deaths of 607,000 people this year alone, a failure of the FBI and my leadership? How is it that we have counterintelligence arrests already this year exceeding the numbers from the entirety of last year? 33% increase in PRC, 83% in Russia, 60% in the CI space as it relates to Iran, and we haven't even talked about CT, the southern border, the northern border.
Before Senator Cruz, I kind of feel like a broken record today. All this interest in FBI termination, yet my colleagues showed no intent or interest in when my whistleblowers suffered retaliation over the past years, particularly the past 4 years. Indeed, one whistleblower has alleged that Brian Driscoll's insubordination, whether an agent is on a hot button case or not, they ought to be held accountable for misconduct and weaponization. Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I have to say, it used to be that to see theater, you had to go to the Kennedy Center. Now, apparently, you need only go to the Senate Judiciary Committee and see our Senate Democrats berating the director of the FBI, which, okay, it's not, partisan politics is not new in the United States Congress. But what is remarkable is what Senator Booker was berating Director Patel about. He wasn't berating him for failing to do his job, but rather he was furious for Director Patel for successfully doing his job. For 4 years, the Democrats under Joe Biden had an open border that undermined the safety of every single American. They allowed 12 million illegal aliens to come into this country to invade this country, and every single day Americans were murdered, women were raped, children were assaulted by violent criminals that Democrats released. Now, Director Patel, I found Senator Booker's questioning.
All right, we want to bring back in congressional correspondent Nikole Killion right now, because Nikole, right before we left, oh, looks like he might be. Oh, let's wait a minute.
We're going to listen to Senator Cory Booker, who just grilled the FBI
director. What we are basically
director.
saying is that we're having an oversight hearing where you have a FBI director that refuses to answer questions. Anytime he refused to answer questions, he was disrespecting senator after senator and saying, I disagree with the premise of your question, as opposed to actually answering the question. He was disrespectful, he was combative, and when we have simple fact-based questions, he wouldn't even step forward and be accountable for the information that we constitutionally should be getting about the agency.
How do you respond to Senator Cruz, who just as soon as you walked out dismissed what you did as theatrics?
Senator Cruz should look at himself before casting aspersions on others.
Do you have confidence that Patel's up to this job, or should he resign?
No, I don't have confidence he's up to the job. Kash Patel has made us less safe, and you've seen this. Whether it's the most recent assassination, when he did something that's unheard of, releasing incorrect information to the public, and then quickly trying to retract it. We've seen him purge the FBI of so many officers that he himself admitted in that hearing it would take 14 years to hire the officers that we need. He has literally defunded or, frankly, taken away officers that should be protecting us. And then he has shifted 20% of his FBI agents to doing what? To enforcing Donald Trump's immigration agenda. Not at our border, keeping us safe, but at hospitals and churches and courts where they're going as masked agents and taking people off the streets. This is not an FBI that's focused on trafficking of human beings, not an FBI focused on keeping us safe. And he keeps trying to hide behind statistics and trends that started years before he got into that job. This man is making us less dangerous, but as I said there on the record, I don't think he's going to be around long. You already see right-wing attacks on him. You already see the Trump administration losing confidence in him. He may be a supplicant of Donald Trump and doing everything he can to contort himself to Donald Trump's will as opposed to doing his job, his constitutionally sworn job. But I don't think Donald Trump is that loyal. How do we know that? Because of the parade of people that have come in and out of his administration in his first term and already. He may be loyal to Donald Trump, but Donald Trump is not loyal to the people around him.
Senator, what do you make of his responses on the Epstein questions?
Wholly and patently unacceptable. He sat there and told us that he would be transparent and accountable with information around the Epstein files. And yet again, he dodged those questions, refused to be forthcoming and transparent. Everybody on both sides of the aisle knows that they're withholding information. And he confirmed that by failing to answer direct questions about the Epstein files.
Things got very heated between the two of you in there. Did you expect something like that?
No, I expected him to answer my questions. But when someone is not answering your questions, gets hostile towards you, simple yes or no questions, he attacks the premise of the question that he assumes is the premise, as opposed to working together to simply get information that I have a sworn constitutional oath to provide the oversight to his agency. This is what we see. We see hostility, we see obstruction, we see a lack of transparency about what's really happening in the FBI, and that's unacceptable.
When you say you don't think he's going to be in his job much longer, you think he's going to be out before the end of the year?
I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but everybody knows what Donald Trump does to people. How many people in positions have we seen come and go, from cabinet level people to people like Kash Patel? Donald Trump takes personnel advice from right-wing extremists about who he should hire, who he should keep, and who he should fire. So I have no confidence that he's going to be in that position very long. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will be the one guy, because of how much he supplicates himself to the will of Donald Trump, that can hold on to his job, but I'm not confident in that.
Do you think the Tyler Robinson manhunt made him specifically lose credibility?
I think he lost his credibility before he even took the job. We know this is one of the few people we have seen in leadership positions, him and the deputy director, have no experience, none, zero, in the FBI whatsoever. We have never in the history of our country seen a director or a deputy director who both had no experience with the FBI, with the agency whatsoever. He is not qualified for that position. That's why I voted against him. And his short tenure there, purging the office of valuable agents, many of them who have received commendations for their work, purging them because they investigated January 6th. This is a crisis of leadership at the FBI, and I worry about how much it's making us less safe. Thank you.
Senator.
I think we're still up. So, if you were just listening live there, you were listening to Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, who had a very combative exchange with the FBI director. And as you heard him there say multiple times, he does not think that Kash Patel will be in his job much longer. When I asked him if he thinks he'll be out of that job by the end of the year, he said he doesn't know, but he believes that Kash Patel wasn't answering his questions, has just simply followed the president's orders on things, and just simply isn't qualified for the job. So that is the source of his frustration. Shortly after Senator Booker questioned Kash Patel, you heard from Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who said, you know, instead of going to the Kennedy Center to see a performance, you can come here to the Senate Judiciary Committee instead. I also asked Senator Booker about those comments, but he said that, you know, the senator should look at his own remarks as well. So obviously this was one of the more heated exchanges that we have seen to come out of this hearing to date.
Great work there, Nikole. Thank you so much for bringing us that interview live there on Capitol Hill. We appreciate your time. Thank you.